woman in the course of a year served thousands of people in the town. When she was stricken with AIDS, all the men in the town panicked, lining up overnight to get tested. How many innocent wives were implicated because of their husbands? With the media adding fuel to the fire, the woman was scorned by society. Even her lawyer gave up defending her on the spot. Everyone thought that the woman had deliberately concealed it to take advantage of the situation to get back at society. With all the noise outside, perhaps only prison can keep him away from the world's eyes. But on the outside there is a man, despite the police's objections, insists on seeing a woman one last time. This is a Korean drama romance. After watching it, many people said they found the meaning of love in the movie. They found the meaning of love. A man named Clock. He is an honest countryman. His only wish now is to find a wife to marry. But at the age of 40 he is still a bachelor, so he spends money to buy a wife. Instead, he met a con man. He didn't find a wife, and he lost all his money. One day, while waiting at a traffic light, he met a woman with long hair. She had a sweet face and a shapely figure. The Clock immediately turned around and chased after her. When he arrived at his destination, he found out the woman was an escort. Because of her profession, they had to come to the hospital regularly for medical checkups. But there was no resistance from the Clock to the woman's identity. The Clock, who was always cheap, even paid a friend to come to the karaoke bar where the woman worked so that he could see her. He even paid a friend to come to the karaoke bar where the woman worked. Looking at the passionate Shane, Clock is shy. Looking at the honest Clock, Shane offered to have a toast with him and kissed her on the ear. On the way back, Clock felt the kissed ear and couldn't get enough of it. It was a moment of total devastation for him. The rest of the day, Clock began to pursue Shane. She didn't care what the world thought. She didn't care what the outside world thought. She volunteered to clean Shane's foot massage parlor, and every morning, she would leave warm milk and flowers on Shane's doorstep. But every day when Shane received the milk, she would pour it all down the drain. That day the Clock confessed his love to her and was rejected. But Clock wasn't about to give up. He thought he wasn't sincere enough, so he took all his savings and gave it to Shane the next day, keeping him from having to work. He would take care of him for the rest of his life. This ended up making Shane very angry and slapped him in the face. Then he left the place in anger. The Clock found him again at night. On the way back, she apologized for what she had done during the day, said she just wanted to make things easier for her, to stop running around trying to make ends meet. It was a moment when Shane felt like he had found something to fall back on. Slowly, he accepted the milk. The first time he drank it, he realized it could be so sweet. One day Shane went to deliver coffee to a customer, but he met a difficult customer. He even threw a bottle at his head and then beat him up. Looking at Shane in the hospital bed, Clock swore to her that he would take good care of her. He would never let her get hurt again. At the wedding a few months later, Clock was happy as a child. At the party, her mother-in-law explained that her daughter-in-law was just a coffee delivery boy. It wasn't what they said it was. Slowly the mother-in-law realized that Shane was a kind person. There was no conflict in the relationship. She even gave her own personal money. She let Clock take her daughter-in-law on a trip to Seoul. At night, Clock carried Ha-eun on his back on the cherry blossom path. The two of them were so happy together. Clock made a promise here. He promised to take care of Ha-eun for the rest of his life. One day, a man found Clock. He said he was Shane's husband, and he took out their wedding photo. Clock learns that Shane had been abused by her ex-husband. That's why she fled to the town alone. He offered to give him 5 million won. He would give him Ha-eun. He didn't think twice about it. He sold the family cow. He gave him the money, and they signed a contract. On the way back, Clock hid the contract. But there was another piece of bad news. One afternoon, the town's doctor told him that Shane had AIDS. At that moment Clock was dumbfounded. It wasn't that he was worried about being infected. He was afraid that if his wife found out, he was afraid that his wife would not be able to handle the news. That day Shane's ex-husband approached him. Talking to him, Shane realized how much Clock had paid for himself. In the afternoon, Shane sat alone in front of his house. He made a decision in secret. Later that night, on the doorstep of his home, Clock hesitated for a long time. He decided to tell Shane about his condition, but when he opened the door, only to find a table of prepared food and a letter saying goodbye. To pay back the money Clock had spent on himself, he went back to his old job. Every once in a while, he'd put money on the Clock's card. The Clock followed the transfer address over and over again, although each time he was unsuccessful. But he wasn't about to give up. He knew that Shane was avoiding him on purpose. Clock stood on the beach and called out his lover's name. His mother advised him to forget about Shane and start a new life. But Clock couldn't let go of the love he felt in his bones. One day Clock received a call from the police. Shane had been arrested for being an escort, and that's when Shane learns that he has AIDS. Clock broke into the police station. In spite of the police, he tried to take Shane away, but in the end it was to no avail. Soon the news spread to the town. Everyone knew that Shane had AIDS. The mother came to the police station, wanted Shane to break off his relationship with the Clock. Shane agreed to do so without hesitation. Back home, his mother found her son depressed. She watched a video on TV every day. In order to make her son stop thinking about it, the mother destroys the tape, but a clock in love can't let go. In the end, Shane was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Before he went to prison, in order to break the Clock's heart, he blamed himself for all his mistakes and said he was just looking for an honest man to take over. Then he turned around and prepared to leave. At that moment, Clock took out a note. It was the promise he had made to him at the cherry blossom tree. At this moment Shane could no longer control his tears. The clock reached out of the window with his hand. He took Shane's hand in spite of the police. A snowflake fell in the cold prison. Shane remembered the happy times. Clock carrying himself down the cherry blossom path. They were so happy at that moment. So full of hope for life. 3 years later, Shane was released from prison. Clock waved at him with a smile. Now there was nothing to stop them. They were together, even if the heavens play tricks on them again. I'm sure that every day for the rest of Clock's life, he will never let any harm come to Shane again. And that's the end of the film. The film You Are My Destiny, changed by true events. Discrimination is worse than a virus. The price of falling in love is higher than love. But in our lives, there are so many things that keep us from falling in love. Status, money, power, disease. Any one of these things can keep love away from us. The story in the film, and we see love for what it is. May the lovers be together.